They married me off because they thought that was what was best for me. And it didn't work out because he was a grown man and I was a child.
Whoa. Did they kind of like arranged marriage you?
Legally, you could say no, but essentially, yes.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, what's your name?
My name's Autumn.
Autumn. What's going on, Autumn?
Hi.
Hi.
So I was just calling because my husband watches you a lot, actually.
Mm.
And he's encouraged me to call you all a couple times just because my life is pretty crazy. His not so much, but when he hears mine, he's like, maybe other people should hear that.
Interesting. Okay, before I want to hear about why your life is crazy, but before we do that, why is your husband's life not crazy? Like, what's his deal?
So he's actually like a really calm person. His family's really calm people too. I mean, I'm sure they had trouble in the past and stuff, like not my business to the extent of like, what happened before me. But they're definitely not like my family, if I could emphasize that. Like my family, I'll get into it, but they're a lot toned down versus that. They're calm people. They believe in like loving their family, things like that. Like everybody sticks together, us against the world. My family, wolves.
Wolves.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Where did you two grow up in different places?
We actually grew up down the road from each other, but we didn't know it.
Oh, really? When did you when did you guys get together?
Probably when I was like 23. So I had a little bit of a world of difference because he went to college, things like that, and his family gave him that room, but my family had me out at 16 because they thought I was old enough to take care of myself.
And how did that work out for you when you were 16?
Rough.
Yeah.
Rough. When I was 16, I was married into a family that was really into church. Yes. We live in the Appalachian region, and church is a big thing. So they married me off because they thought that was what was best for me. And it didn't work out because he was a grown man and I was a child.
Whoa. So your family married you off when you were like, they weren't like they did they kind of like arranged marriage you?
Legally, you could say no, just because they kind of went across the map of what is in the legalities for our state. But essentially, yes. We had a family down the road. There was a guy probably about 7 years older than me, and they married me off to him. And the court allows it as long as you're 16. And they married me off to him because they thought that he would take care of me, and he was in church, and I had to follow by his rules. So yeah, I guess in a sense, yes, you could say it is legal, but in another sense, you could say that it shouldn't be.
And how long were you in that for?
Till I was 18. I was 18, and he knew that he was a really nice man, and he knew that I didn't want that, and he let me go. He was like, I don't think you really wanted to be a part of this. He got me a car, and he gave me some money and was like, here, I knew this wasn't what you wanted in life, and he let me go.
And where'd you go?
Well, at first, I went back to my family's house, and that was hard. That was definitely hard because my mom didn't take it well. And she was not really religious or anything. I guess more so just wanted us out of her house because she really believed that it was my job to take care of everything. And I always had to be the adult. And I didn't care to take on that responsibility until I was old enough to realize that I had other options. And that's when the defiance began. I'd got a full scholarship and stuff, and that was really hard. And she didn't want me to take it, and kind of forced me in that situation. But I came back home. She had got on drugs really bad, and the next thing I knew, probably after about 2 or 3 months, the police were beating down her door, and I was still taking care of my siblings at the time, and I'd done that the whole time that I was married off. So the police came at our door, busted it down, and we all had to go outside, and I never experienced anything like that because I was kind of bounced around a lot as a kid till my grandparents died. And then when I moved back home with my mom, it kind of evened out, so I didn't really expect it. She I guess, had a wild spell. So we all had to get escorted outside of the house by the police, and I didn't know what was going on. I was only 18 at the time. My husband, he thought that I could handle what life had to give me, and he knew that I didn't want to be in that situation. I didn't know I was walking back into a situation way worse. But I remember police holding guns and stuff, and I didn't know what was going on. And after the whole event, they told us that my mom had called and said 9 people were holding her hostage with guns or something like that. It's kind of traumatic. I'm sorry. I get a little trembly talking about it. But there's a reason my husband thought that it would be cool for me to call. So I don't usually talk about this with other people. I promise that I'll get through the story. It just it might take me a second.
Your life is you certainly delivered upon the premise that your life is crazy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, let me ask you this, because you said your husband wanted you to call in. How do you feel telling this story?
Brave.
Is it a positive?
I never realized.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I never realized that it was a brave story, if that makes sense. I grew up and I wanted to be a cop. So I went into that field. I just didn't want kids to experience what I experienced growing up. And there's a lot of backstory, of course. But I just always wanted to be brave for everybody else. And I knew that I was that for my siblings and stuff. I didn't know that I could have that vulnerability, if that makes sense. So when me and my husband talked about it and stuff, he listens to you all the time. I just didn't know that there'd be people that would listen to it, if that makes sense. You tell a crazy story, people don't always register it. If you tell a story to your friends that know your life, they're like, Oh yeah, I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
I never realized that there was an outside viewer that would hear that and be like, "Oh my gosh, wow!" Like, or that's crazy. Like that didn't happen, you know. And so I was always hesitant to always tell my story.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up wanting to be a cop, so that's the field I pursued, and was thinking I could make a change. But life happens, and sometimes things happen to you, especially in the area we live in, that you don't realize, I guess, how your story might be minuscule in comparison. And so sharing it don't feel like it's worth it, if that makes sense. But my husband, he'll hear me talk sometimes, especially if you have a few margaritas or anything like that. And he was like, you need to tell people this. Like, you really, really do. Like, so I guess that encouraged me a lot, just hearing him talk to me about it and tell me, like, hey, you need to maybe open up.
So listen, I mean, do you want to continue? Do you want to keep talking about it?
Yeah, sure. Like, I've been keeping up with you for a minute.
All right, cool. So,
I've been trying to catch you live, so I can tell you.
All right. So you're 18. The house gets raided. Your mom goes off a little bit, and what happens after that? Where do you go?
So the story gets way crazier. I'm sorry.
No,
sorry to any viewers to hear it.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
So, right off the rip, I am baffled. I remember the police escorting us out of the house. Everybody is getting zip tied. I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea. My siblings, they were children at the time. I was 18. But my siblings at the time were not. They were way younger than me. And my stepdad at the time didn't know what was going on either. Turns out my mom had been having a secret affair with our neighbors down the road. I guess they're going on with some polyamorous stuff, kind of ordeal. Not that I'm judging or anything, just that's what was occurring. And so we get notified that they're involved, and the police are arresting kind of like a couple people. And my stepdad still has no idea what's going on. The cop, though, at the time, we live in a really small country area, was talking to me about it. And he was like, hey, I'm just wanting to let you know what's going on. And he ends up telling me a little bit more than he should have, whatever. Couple people getting arrested. My mom's friends, the one she was engaging the affair with, and they go to jail. My mom doesn't go to jail, surprisingly, even though she's high, and she ends up admitting that it was meth. So the next day, whatever, life goes on. She's pretending like nothing happened. And that's kind of a thing with her. Like, it's always been a thing with her, is that when she does these crazy things, she pretends like it didn't happen. And those things had occurred once before, twice before in my childhood when I lived with her, before she married me off. And I was kind of numb to it, if that makes sense. Like, she'd always been pretty out there and done crazy things, like holding guns to her head and stuff. You know, we live in the South. That's a pretty common thing, having access to those things. But it's not a pretty common thing to have your parent hold a gun to their head or anything like that. So it was kind of traumatic, but, you know, you don't know the definition of traumatic at that point in time. Like, you're like, I mean, maybe I was just so traumatized, I just didn't know. But, like, at 15 years old, seeing my mom hold a gun to her head, I just was like, this is normal, okay? Like, this ain't like the worst thing I've seen. And so I just went about my day. So to me at 18, this happening, I was like, this is fucked because, oh, I'm sorry for cussing. I don't know.
Say whatever. Say whatever. Oh, you can say whatever you want.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So I was like, this is fucked for this happening, but like, I didn't know that it was out of the realms of other people's lives, because I still hadn't had friends or anything like that. I had one best friend through high school that knew my life. Yeah.
And when you were so
scared.
So when you were 18, you didn't have any friends up at that point?
Not too many. Like, people I'd had acquaintances, but I was really scared to make friends.
Were you were like going to public high school?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And so what was it like for you, like, in school, and why were you afraid to make friends?
So when I was younger, I tried to have friends, but I didn't, like how you talk about your life when you're a kid and you tell your friends what's going on, like you're like, my family's doing this, my family's doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of them, once they heard what my family was doing, wouldn't let me hang out with their kids anymore. Or the vice versa of, if they did hear it, they got so overly concerned that it would scare me, because my mom was always, the best way to explain it is, and I hate to compare it to this, but like a dictator. Like, if you told anybody what was going on, you basically got punished at the max. Like there was this one time I didn't understand what cheating was, and she was cheating on her husband. And I was going to church at the time. I was a kid. We lived in the Bible Belt. I had accidentally told on her for cheating. And when I say accidentally, it truly was an accident. I was 13 years old. My grandparents raised me, so I didn't know no better. Like, my grandparents were really about religion. And my grandpa had asked me if someone had been coming over to our house. And I just told him, yeah. I didn't want to lie, because he'd told me lying was sin, like, in that moment. 13 years old, you don't really think before you speak or anything like that. And she locked me in the room for 3 days with no food or anything.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it really scared me. So you kind of learn how to watch your P's and Q's of what to do and what not to do. And I didn't know this wasn't normal for the most part. Like, honestly, I thought this was how life was until I was way older. Like, I had no idea. Like, and that's why my husband's always like, Autumn, like, you need to just maybe talk about it, like, let it out, something. But, like, to me, that was how life was. Like, that was my in and out. Like, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know other kids didn't go through that, so I thought it was normal to talk about. And then I realized it wasn't. So it made me watch who my friends were. I got scared, like, who would tell the guidance counselor, and if it would get back to my mom, and if she'd punish me. And those were always my fears, like, if she would punish me. Like, I was so scared, and it made me so scared to do anything wrong. Like, I was terrified of it.
So, man, all right, so you're 18 and you don't even have, like, much of a network outside of your immediate family at this point to even really give you, as you're saying, much of a reference as to what is normal. Like, because, you know, even, like, the ability to, like, go over to a friend's house and, like, just get any bit of a fucking idea of, like, what life is like outside of your own. is like tough
No.
when you're in that situation.
Yeah.
So it becomes like you start to believe like, oh, this is just how shit is. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When you're 18 and the cops come and shit, where do you go after that? Like, I guess, how did you, because I know you kind of, well, how old are you now, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 27.
27? Okay, all right. So, from 18, what's the story of like I guess, so did the police, they arrested your mom, right?
No, actually. We live in such a small town that it turns out that my mom knew the officer, knew everything, and yeah, they were like, hey, what's going on? Ended up, the people she was having an affair with had a meth lab. So she told on them for having that, and they ended up getting arrested, and I don't know what the technicalities of it were or anything like that, but they lived down the road where we were, like, at the time, and they were related to my stepdad, and my stepdad told them who knows what. I was only 18 at the time. I didn't understand, how connections worked or anything like that. So I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I knew she didn't get in trouble because she got to stay home and they got arrested. So,
and then how much longer did you live with her at the house?
Probably 3 days. So after the second day, she had threatened to shoot my brother at the time, who was 12. She had told him that I took you into this world and I'll bring you out. And I remember hearing that. I was just like, I can't with this no more. Like, I took care of my siblings all my life. Like, in my head, I was like, these are my kids. It done something to me. And I was like, I can't anymore. So I remember packing at the time, and this probably sounds so silly, but I packed I had like a PS3 and a couple other devices and not many things, because I just came back home and I packed it in my car, and I got my first job because, like I said, I was married off at 16 and he didn't believe in a woman working or anything. So I'd got a job. I was at my point of, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to figure it out. So I got a job and I was going to figure it out. Like, that was my mindset.
Yeah.
So I packed all my stuff in my car. I ran off. I slept a couple days in a Walmart parking lot with all my stuff in my car, going to work the next day. And then my best friend from high school, the one singular friend I did have, I was like, hey, do you want a roommate? Like, we'll find a place. And I started looking at the newspaper, and I found a place quickly. And the guy just wanted a $450 down deposit. I was like, hey, that's nothing. And we did that, and I went from there and got that.
And what's going on? How many siblings do you have?
So I have 3 that I know of, but I don't know my biological dad that well. So when we did a 23 or whatever DNA test, it popped up a couple. I got to meet 2 of my dad's children. They said we had many, but I don't know, and I've never really met them. But by my mom, I had 2 that I got to know.
And so, okay, so you're living with your friends. You found a $450. You found an apartment you can afford, and what's going on? Yeah, I guess so. That must have been really difficult because it's like, what's going on with your siblings at the time? Because it's like it's hard enough to fucking like be able to like fend for yourself in that situation. Are you still at this time like keeping contact with your siblings and stuff?
Yeah, I am. So at the time, I was messaging them and stuff, and I had got a hold of my youngest sibling, Kayla. She had told me like what was going on, stuff like that, and how hard she was dealing with it. My middle sibling, she had dealt with my mom a lot and was kind of close to my mom. We didn't know about what triangulation was, so we had went to therapy a couple times, each of us, but I went to therapy the most. So we learned about what triangulation was, and it's called, basically the epitome of it is pitting your siblings against each other for whatever benefit it is for the parent. And
whoa.
So at the time, they were, my mom was triangulating for a minute. It didn't happen long because she kind of realized that I was her financial gain and stuff. But she was like, your older sister, she left us. Look what she did. She left us and she left you all here alone. And so my younger sibling was telling me this, and that kind of distressed me because I was the one that would get them up for the school bus and get them ready for school, get them off the school bus and all that stuff. So I didn't really understand what was going on at the time. So I was like, it distressed me because I was like, how dare she talk bad about me after all that she did? And I didn't know what was going on in reality. But from what I was seeing at that point and at that time was that she was talking awful about me. But that eventually died when she realized that I would be the one that would be taking care of my siblings and stuff. Like, sorry, you just heard my husband.
Was that your husband? Oh, yeah. Is that your husband saying what's up?
Is it okay if he gives a little shout out?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
He has to go to work, so I'm sorry. I've been talking while he's been asleep for work.
Hey man, I've been listening to your podcast for I don't want to say 4 or 5 months now, but I've just been binge listening to it at work, and you're doing good stuff, man.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Have a. What do you do? Where are you going?
I work at Walmart.
Oh,
putting
cool,
stuff
man.
on the shelf.
Kick ass. Have a nice day at work, brother.
All right, thanks, man. You too.
All right, later, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I'm sorry. He just really loves
all good.
you.
That's all good. That's all good. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my mom had kind of at the moment, they were kids. She pitted them against me, like I was abandoning them. And I never realized at that point what that move was. I didn't know. Like, I had no idea that was what was occurring. But months later, she, I guess, came around and was like, oh, she's not that bad. I guess I was wrong. And they reached back out to me and was like, hey, we need help. And so I started sending them money. I didn't know better. I was just worried. So I started sending them money.
You're sending money over to your mom?
Yeah, for the kids.
And where are you working at this time? Like, how are you making money?
I was working at a factory.
Okay.
It was just a little tiny small town factory. It wasn't much at the time. Minimum wage was $7.25. We made like $1 more. It was like $8.25. But I was just worried. So I was scared, honestly, that my siblings just wouldn't get to eat.
And are you at this time, like, do you have enough to like take care of like both yourself? Like, do you have enough to take care of yourself and have enough left over that you're sending to your mom?
Honestly, no. Like, if I'm being quite honest, I remember having that conversation and being like, hey, like, I don't have a lot of money. But in her head, she viewed it as, well, you're working, so you should. So I didn't, like, correlate that was wrong, because I was like, this is my family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I also became pregnant probably about 2 months later
You
by the
got
only
pregnant
friend
2
that
months
I
later?
had. Yeah, like probably about 2 months later from sending all that money. The best friend that I had roommated with, I'd kind of formulated a relationship with, but we'd been best friends since 8th grade, so I thought it was safe. And so we were like, hey, if we're friends and we're living together, we should just date. And that was that. So we decided to be together. And then I found out I was pregnant.
Mm. Mm.
I know it's a lot. I'm so sorry.
No. If you're down to keep telling your life story, I remain all ears for as long as you want to keep talking.
Okay, so as long as you're good, I'm good.
All right, great.
I feel bad because I know it's a lot.
No. You don't have to feel bad. I remain all ears for as long as you want to keep talking.
It's a really long story, so I'm going to apologize in advance.
No, go ahead.
So that was my best friend. We'd been best friends since 8th grade. So there's a little bit of backstory to that. My gallbladder had failed, and it had attached to my liver. And so everything started shutting down at once, but my mom had said I was faking it when I was in high school. So I was getting sicker and sicker. But his mom was the only one that gave a heck about me. So she was like, hey, something's like, she worked at a hospital, and she was like, something's really wrong with her. But my parents never listened. They were always like, she's faking it. She just wants attention. So there's a lot of backstory there too. So when my gallbladder had finally attached to my liver, I passed out at school and an ambulance was called, and I had to have an emergency surgery. And when that had happened, I guess that kind of brought me and him pretty close. That, you know, our friendship was like tight, you know. And his parents were close to me and stuff. But, you know, at the time, I knew I didn't want a boyfriend or anything like that. So I was like, no. I hadn't, at the time, knew what my parents had in store for me with the whole marriage stuff. But life goes on, and he's still my friend throughout all of that. We're friends. We move in together. He had a girlfriend. I had a boyfriend at the time. We were both adults. I was 18. He was 18. But it just kind of coincided that we worked out. We both went through bad breakups or whatever. And we were like, okay, we'll be together while we were living together. And we ended up having a kid. And we were like, okay, so we'll just make this work. We got married. And, you know, where we live, if you're having a baby, you get married. That's just that. So we got married. We had a son with some birth defects and stuff. And it was just really hard. We didn't know what to do. It was scary, really scary. And he's not a bad person or anything. I'm not going to diss him at all in this. We just didn't know what we were doing. We were both kids, and he knew about how my family done me, how they had kind of arranged a marriage and stuff. And his family was really understanding, and they kind of took me under their wing, and they were really good to me. So I felt like I had it made. But I didn't know what battles I had ahead of me. So I went through postpartum really bad because I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't have parents to help me along that journey or anything. And it was extra hard because you're having a kid with birth defects. You want help, and you don't know what you're doing, and you especially don't know what you're doing with that extra thing added on. But he turned out great. Like, he's a wonderful kid. He could do everything a normal kid can. He went above and beyond that. Like, and so I'm so proud of him. But at the time, I had no clue what I was doing. I was terrified, like absolutely scared. Like, I was like, I'm gonna let this kid down. Like, I especially didn't know what I was doing because, like, I'd never seen a parent be a good parent. So I was like, how do I be a good parent to my kid?
Right.
And if I'm not letting you get a word in, stop me, because
No, please keep going, please.
So it's hard. I went into counseling. I got on some antidepressants and stuff, but I was so scared of any kind of medication because of what my family was like that I would refuse it at every curve. I was like, even the antidepressant, like, which is so silly in hindsight. But at the time, you really don't know. Like, you truly don't know. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is drugs. So I was like, this is bad. Freaked out, flushed all my antidepressants down the toilet because I was like, I see my mom take pills. Like, so I was like, I don't want to be like her. So I really didn't know what I was doing. So that took a lot of mental episodes of figuring out, and I'd had a lot of help with his family along the way because they knew how my family was. Like, they were like, we know you don't have support, we know you don't have people, and to this day I'm still so thankful, because if it hadn't been for them, I probably wouldn't have made it. Like, I probably, like, honestly, if I'm telling the truth, wouldn't be here. So I'm really grateful for them.
And so yeah, I guess, yeah, no, I mean, you
get better.
Well, please keep going. Tell the story at whatever, because I'm fascinated. I want to hear how you're doing now, but I want to wait because I want you to, if you have a whole timeline you want to go through, I'm curious. Yeah.
If you got time, I'm here to talk. Okay.
Yeah, we got time.
So this journey goes on, way on. So at that time, I was probably 21. I had a 3-year-old at that point. Okay. So that's right about where I left off. I'm 27 now, so it's about 6 years that I got to go, if you're good with listening.
Yeah.
So I thought I wanted to be a cop, and that was what my heart was set on. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be a cop. I'm going to do this. I want to make a difference in kids' worlds, in my world. Like, in my head, I was like, hey, I'm going to be the thing that saved me when I was a kid. Because trust me, along my childhood, cops, and I'm not like, backing any kind of movement in this by saying it. I'm just meaning, honestly, like, for my perspective in my timeline, I went through a lot of abuse, and the only thing that saved me was people showing up, and there was really no outside force beyond that. Like, I didn't have family that stepped in or anything like that. So I was like, I want to be that. I want to be that. And I thought that I really can make a difference. But it turns out in this area where we live, you can't. Like, that's just that. Everybody knows everybody. They let them off. They, like, if somebody's hurting their kids, they just turn the other way. If they know them, they're like, hey, I went to high school with them. They just don't care. And I went to that field for a while, a couple years, and it was just taking a huge toll on me personally. And I just couldn't take it no more. I was like, I can't do this. I absolutely cannot do this. I can't watch everything that I went through go on to other people. And so I was like, I have to sit down. I have to take a breather. So my husband, I eventually moved on from my son's father because just life happens, and me and my son's father had separated. He wasn't like dramatic or anything. We just went on our own paths, and we peacefully delegated, like, hey, like, we were just friends growing up, and we should have always been friends, and we peacefully done it, you know, and that was the best thing ever, like, to me, was you know, you always hear about, and so my whole life had been drama. So to me, that was kind of like a breath of fresh air, you know? Like,
I mean,
away.
That's the vibe I'm getting too, is like, that's after so much, like, strife in your life to have, you know, this event, because it's just, you know, it happens of people, like, growing apart and moving on from each other, but to have it happen in a peaceful way, it's like, oh, things can, you know, be chill, at least for once, you know.
I mean, I won't say it was an easy thing, like, at all. Like, I will not, because, you know, I don't want to discredit anybody that's going through it right now. But it definitely was hard. There was a lot of stuff that had happened, and, you know, I hold no resentment. And that's the best feeling to me, is like, oh, good. Like, so out of that, like, I'm like, at least I took something from my childhood and made it useful. Like, you know, I didn't want to be like that, and I became better. Like, and so I'm like, okay, good for you. But the process after was not easy, because going back home after everything I'd been through growing up.
Oh, so you went back with your mom?
Yes.
And you bring
so it started with my sister. Yeah, but it went back to my mom.
Okay, so you were living with your sister, and then you went back to your mom.
Yes. So my sister went through a bad divorce when I decided to go through mine. And I've lived with her for a couple months, but my sister was like, I can't, you know, do my stuff anymore, so I have to go. So I was like, oh my God, I have no other option now. Like, I'm just getting on my feet. So now what do I do? And it ended up with being back at my mom's, which sucked wholeheartedly. But
and at this point, so what's your kind of custody arrangement at this point with your ex-husband?
Split. Perfect split. So he's like, as long as you're good, I'm good. And we would arrange. So if something was going on, which he knew my family and stuff, he knew how they were. And he was like, if something's going on, you just tell me and we'll make it work. You know, if something's going on your way, like, we'll just delay it, whatever. And we dealt with the grandmother a lot more than anything else, like, on his side. So if something was going on, we knew Grandma could step in and help. Which worked.
So, yeah, what's it like back at that brief stint back at your mom's?
Not good. My sister, I took more so worry for my sister at the time than me, which was just, I couldn't help it. I should have been worrying about my process and my own emotions, but it's just, I can't. Like, I can't. Like, I would always just take over for her or whoever I was around at that moment. So I could be dealing with the sky falling, and I was like, what's going on with you? Like, let's help you, like, whatever. Yeah. Which didn't give me the ability to process what I wanted to process. But at the same time, I was just like, I can't process what I'm dealing with, so I want to process what you're dealing with. And so I guess more so I was worried about her and what she was like. her and her man ended up working out temporarily, so we went back to her house and we stayed there for a while, and she was good with it. I was good with it. But my mom was just my mom. Angry, didn't want, I guess, one of us to succeed or something. That's just her mentality at the time. It would bounce back and forth between me and her. And so we would just kind of talk to each other and trust each other more so than we would whatever outsourced help we were getting. And was like, hey, we'll figure it out. And that's when I met my husband now. I had 2 jobs. I worked at a jail and I worked at a liquor store, which is the funniest thing, I know.
You worked at what? You said a jail?
Yeah. So I was a CO, and then by night, and then I was a liquor store clerk by day. So a lot of the times I'd have people that I had in jail at night be seeing me the next day.
Seeing you the next day at the liquor store?
Yeah.
That is, yeah.
But I was cool with it. Like, like I've always been like really just, hey, whatever goes with the flow, But that didn't always work in my favor. So I had 2 jobs. I wasn't home a lot anyway. So I was like, we'll figure out what goes on at home on my time, if you want. And she was cool with it because they always let me figure out their problems, and which is my downfall because that kind of puts a lot on my plate. But at the same time is also worrisome because I'm also like, I know we didn't have parents that guided us growing up, so I can't help but to worry about them until this day. Like, do you all know what you're doing? Like, do you all need help? But so at the time, we were figuring out. She went back home. Whatever. I met my husband at my job. My second job, not my first job. We knew each other growing up, but we didn't really know each other. So we were meeting in...
You met him at the liquor store?
At the liquor store, not the jail. But it was all because of a proposal. So they were buying stuff for the proposal. So I'd really never gave him a chance. I was always like, yeah, I'm married at the time before. And then afterward, I was like, I'm divorced and I don't want to really talk to nobody.
What? I'm sorry. One sec. I just want to. So your current husband comes in. He's buying stuff for a proposal.
Yes, for his brother.
Oh, okay. I thought he met you like. No. It's totally cool. I was just like, did he?
Oh, this is about to get way more crazy.
Yeah, I thought it was about to get right because I thought it was like, oh, he met you while buying alcohol for a proposal for his wife.
No.
Okay.
His
I
brother.
was curious about that. All right, got you.
He'd actually never had a serious relationship, like maybe once, but beyond me, no. It was his brother. But at the time, we'd been friends before working together and stuff, like in the past. But like I was always like, no, like I'm very like consistent with what I feel, and I'm like, if I'm married, I'm like no, and then like things like that, like average people stuff.
So you knew of this. So this, I mean, it's so small town. Like of this guy before he comes into the liquor store. Okay, got you.
Yes. He spoke to me once or twice. I was like, no. I'd shut him down every time, and and I'd never felt bad about it until I'd got with him. But I'd always shut him down, like no. But this time, I guess he just got lucky because I'd been divorced for a minute, and all my friends, like, I'm going to brag on them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all my friends were so pretty, and he came into my job, and I'm used to all my friends getting all the attention, like, and I'm not knocking myself, but, you know, like, I was just really not there, if that makes sense. Like, I'd always be in the background, and he had walked past them, like, talking to him, and he was like, "Hey, Autumn," and I was like, "Oh, hey," and then that won me over, like, instantly. Like, that he walked past the Malibu Barbies and went to me.
Was that like, so you had kind of this feeling that, like, I guess, of like, oh, like, I you know, you're not usually the one getting the attention, and finally somebody, you know, pays you some mind.
Yeah, because everybody in the small town don't pay attention to the goth girl. They're like devil worshippers. Stay in your corner.
But the goth girl vibe was what drew him to you.
Yes. So I was
Very
like,
nice.
"Oh, okay."
Very nice.
Like,
Very nice. Very nice.
I need this to work.
Very nice. Very nice.
And I knew he played like music and stuff like that. So I was like, "Oh, okay. So it's not just like a kink or a fetish or something like that, you know, like this might actually be what he's into." So, and so I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'll give this man a chance." Anyway, we hit it off after that, and he was kind of my saving grace. And I'm not trying to, like, you know, fluff it, but he really was, because I had no idea what normal was like. So when I met him, he kind of, like, it threw me by surprise, because I was like, "Why is this man so nice to me?" Like, like, who are you? What are you doing? Like, he started seeing me, and he was doing so many nice things for me, and I was like, "What the fuck? Like, who the fuck do you think you are?" Like, you know, just on the defense. Like, I couldn't help it. That's just how it was. Like, you know, like, nobody's nice unless they have an ulterior motive, like, in my head at that moment. And he kind of took me under his wing, and he was like, "Hey, like, you know, I want you to open up. I want you to share." And so I started telling him how my life was. And he kind of knew who my family was, things like that, just because we live in the smallest town. And he had no idea, because my mom paints this picture perfect, like, Facebook life. I don't have social media, so I don't know. But from what I understand, it's picture perfect, whatever. And so I'm telling him, and I'm showing him, like, I have, you know, proof and all that. I'm like, "This is what's going on in my life." And he's like, aghast, like, "I can't believe that." Like, and I guess it just blew me away, because it's like, "What do you mean?" Like, you know, I never really dated. I'd had 2 people in my life, and that was it, that I'd been with my whole adulthood of, you know, serious things. And I was like, "What do you mean? Like, this ain't something you heard?" And the more I'd tell him, he'd just be like, "What?" Like, you're joking. And then he'd see it. Like, he would actually get to see physical proof of it, knowing my family. And it just kind of blew him away, because he didn't realize people could really be like that. Like, because he was used to his family being nice and taking him in, and, like, every moment that, like, someone was feeling something, everybody would talk about it, things like that. And he'd never seen anything like that. So he was, like, aghast, I guess.
And so this is when you were 23. So this is about 4 years ago that you guys
yes,
not meet for the first time, but reconnect.
On.
But you reconnect.
Yes.
And then And then how does that relationship flourish? Do you guys move in together? Like what's the sort of the timeline of that?
So at a certain point, we do move in together. We move in and everything's going good and stuff, but he's starting to get to really see how my family is. Like he's like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know. And at the time, my sister had ran off, which this is another side story. She had ran off from that prior relationship, and she got into some wild stuff, and I guess kind of reenacted my mom a little bit, because she got into a bad situation. I'd offered to help her and stuff, but I didn't know what she was doing. So he was like seeing it, and he was like, no, we can't get involved with it beyond that point. Like before that, we could offer her somewhere to go, but we didn't know what she was doing at the time, which was some drugs and stuff like that. And he was like, no, we can't help her beyond that point because we don't know what she's bringing in. He kind of got to see how everything was going on that part, which was scary because I never encountered that with my own siblings and stuff. And then my mom would get involved, and my dad was friends with his dad growing up and stuff. So there was always Autumn stuck up, and Autumn.
Your dad.
Family.
Your dad was friends with I'm sorry if I'm messing this up here, but your dad was friends with your sisters. With your.
Oh no, you're okay. My
with
husband.
your.
My
Oh yeah, okay.
current
That's what I thought.
husband
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, your dad was friends with your current husband's dad growing up.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So we had no idea though. Like we knew kinda, but we didn't know like how close everybody was. Like we had no idea because I hadn't talked to my parents in years. Like at this point, like it's probably a good year before I'd spoke to my mom. So we really didn't know the background of that, and none of that stuff was kind of shared. But it turns out they were actually pretty close growing up and stuff like that. Yes, which is my mom's fifth husband, and which was her third husband's cousin, which is even more crazy backstory.
Your mom's fifth husband was her third husband's cousin?
Yes.
That's a whole thing.
Oh yeah. Like when I tell you it's all crazy, it's all crazy.
So, I don't want to skip too much if you have some stuff to, that you still kind of want to talk about, but I'm very curious. So you're 27 now.
Yes.
First of all, and I actually probably should have asked you this about an hour ago. Have you talked about all this stuff with a real therapist?
So probably a while back, yes, but it kind of gets old after a while.
I'm sure.
Because we live in a small town. The therapists don't really stay therapists long here, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So you're having to retell your whole life to someone new in a matter of like 8 months.
No, it's well, here's what you can do is now that you've told this story, you can just send any new therapist this podcast and be like, here's some homework. That way you don't have to tell it again.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose I could. Mm-hmm. Like, here's my link.
TLDR, and then
that would
just
probably
post the
work.
link. Yeah. But I mean, how are you doing now? Where at the future? I mean, you're clearly a very smart person, and just from the way that you present yourself and the way you talk, and I know that the way that people present themselves and the way that they talk does not tell a full story of things, but What from the way you're presenting yourself to me on this call, despite everything, you turned out pretty damn well as a human being. How's
I
your
hope
life
so.
going? How's your life going now at 27? What's up?
Okay, so to be honest, I'm having a hard time finding functionality in a career that is not law enforcement. That's my personal struggle. So I'm trying to find myself a place, not customer service, because I never realized maybe after working that field, I'm not customer service based. But me and my husband, we are living with his family, and we're trying to figure things out. We had moved, despite all bad things. My mom had hooked her sinks in probably about a year ago that we should come live with her, and we did for a minute. And then my husband really got to see my reality, like truly got to see my reality of how they were and stuff, and it kind of bit us regardless. But a kid wants their parent. That's just natural. Human instinct. I thought she'd changed because my stepdad at the time had promoted the idea that she was better. She wasn't like she was before, etc. We moved back in with her for a little bit, and it just was awful. It ended up with me pretty much being their maid and stuff because I just can't help it. That's just my personality. I just aim to please, I guess, is the common reference for that. And my husband would get tired of it at the time. And so we were trying to get our gateway into being able to get our own home and stuff like that. Because we wanted to start our marriage out building, and I guess it didn't really work out that way. But we're doing good beyond that because we got out of their grasp of them constantly keeping us in that cycle, I guess you would say, of abuse, because that's really ultimately what it is. And he realized that before I did.
And how is your son doing?
Great. Absolutely phenomenal. But he's shielded from a lot of things.
He's nine now?
Yes. I hate to paint that picture to him that everything's fine, but I'd rather him have the everything's fine than everything's bad and the sky's falling.
Yeah, I mean, I think to shield him from that, I mean, it's so amazing that you grew up in like such crazy circumstances, and now you have this you have seized the opportunity to do things better and right for your son. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the best legacy I can leave behind is honestly that I did not let him go through an inch of what I went through. And that's the proudest thing I am.
Yeah,
is
really
that
cool.
He's never got to see a day of that life, you know?
Yeah. And is it, does your husband have any kids, or are you two both, just like kind of taking care of the one?
Just the one. I would like them in the future, but ultimately that fear lies within of I just don't want to repeat cycles, and I'd rather be on a good fit when we start that than, history and all that. Because my son was not really necessarily planned, but he's a blessing beyond that, regardless. But if I can keep it on a good fit of having one planned when it comes to making sure I'm of a good state of mind, he's of a good state of mind, I'd rather do that. That way I know that my kids will never see a day of the life that I had.
And is everything still cool with your ex-husband in terms of like sharing custody and whatnot?
Yeah, everything did work out well with that. We did have a couple bumps in the road, but it was mostly outside sources. Like he'd moved on for a bit. The ex-wife didn't like me. And you know, like, that's fine. She don't have to, and I'm cool with that. Like, she didn't have to like me. As long as we can coincide together, I'm cool with that. But she didn't want to coincide, and that ultimately led to separation and all that because she didn't want me in the picture. But eventually that worked out, and you know, I didn't interfere. Like, it's not my business or anything. She just didn't want me in the picture, and that wasn't part of her plan, and it didn't work out in her favor that she couldn't get me out of the picture. And so life went on after that. But
so I got two things. One, I got a question for you, and then two, if you're down, I am looking at the live Twitch chat, and I'll take some questions from them in just a bit if you want. But let me ask you this: where you are now, like, I know that you're kind of trying to find something outside of like law enforcement or retail. If you could like wave a magic wand and your life could be any way that you wanted it to be, what would that look like? I'm curious.
Business. I wish I'd went into business. I wish I'd went into school for it. I never realized how well I am in this kind of situation. Like, I've been a manager many times before, and I didn't realize I was good at it. I'd been a manager a couple times at a call center and Walmart, things like that. I'd never realized how good I am at mediating. I mean, I guess that probably comes naturally from my family. But maybe given that was my role a lot growing up, was the mediator, I would have picked something in business. Like, absolutely, hands down.
I have no fucking idea if this is worth anything, but listen, I'll post this on Spotify and YouTube, and I don't know if the people of Spotify comments and YouTube comments can be helpful to your journey in any sense, but if they can, I don't know. I don't know if we can get somebody a job via the Therapy Gecko podcast, but if we could, it would be cool. So you know, I'll post this, and you know, I don't know, maybe you can connect with somebody in the YouTube comments who could help you. I don't know if that's a pipe dream, but it would be cool if it could happen.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't have like so you said you don't have any social media, right?
Yeah, not really.
Okay.
I have Spotify, I have YouTube, things like that.
Okay.
But kind of just died down from social media after working in the field. I could tell you a crazy story about that. But I just kind of got scared after a while. I had a woman that painted my name with her blood on the wall, and it kind of scared me.
You had a woman who painted your name with her blood on the wall?
Yeah. At the jail.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Someone in the chat just said, "I hate when that happens."
Me too, fam. Me too.
But yeah, well, look, you know, I'll post this on YouTube and Spotify. I don't know if somebody can help you out. If they could, that would be cool. But at least, you know, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people in the comments who are you know, very very supportive of your tale in general. Do you want? Is it okay if I ask some questions from the Twitch chat?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, so Twitch chat, you can ask some questions real quick. Someone said, if you could move out of Appalachia, where would you go?
Maine.
Maine.
I know,
Where in
silly.
Maine?
Anywhere. I love Stephen King. He's one of my favorite authors, and if anybody really reads any of his books, all of his books are placed somewhere up there, and I think it would just be interesting to kind of go there.
You ever thought about writing a book or something like that?
Kind of. Sometimes when I'm really stressed out, I go
Yeah.
on Word document on my PC and just type it all out.
Hey, be careful, or else you'll end up the Vice President of the United States. Waka waka. Hold on. Oh, what's your favorite Stephen King novel?
Okay, so Needful Things is up there, or The Stand. Needful Things or The Stand. I have nightmares, though, usually of, like, apocalyptic things. I just can't help it. That's usually my nightmares.
Oh, somebody said, did you and your siblings work things out after everything that happens?
Yes, actually. My sister, she had lost a baby last year, which had created an open way for me and her to work it out, because immediately I left my job. My job was like, we're going to fire you. At the time I was working in nursing. They were like, we're going to fire you if you can't come in tonight. I was like, fuck it. Like, family's more important. So I told my husband, I was like, we're going to, I'm trying not to give away my location, but we're going to go upstate, and we're going to go see her and watch the baby, with her, because they're pulling off a life support. And we went up there, and me and my sister made way, and she got better. I had no idea she'd been working on her recovery and stuff like that. But me and my youngest sibling have always been close. Like, they moved a couple states away, and I'd always been really close to them. Anything they needed, I was there. Just my middle sibling was the one we had a big fallout with. I couldn't be a part of what she was going through, and I tried and tried, but I just can't, like, if it's at that point. But she finally got better. She'd lost the baby, and I was there by her side. I'd made sure, I didn't even care that I'd lost the job. I lost the job to go be with her, make sure that she's okay through that. And my mom made it hard, but I was there, and she really made up with me at that moment, and we're still pretty close now. So we all made up.
This is a question I'm very curious about. Someone said, after all this, are you still religious or spiritual?
No. I hate to say that. I really do. I mean, there's moments, in my nature where I'll find myself praying. I can't help it. It's almost instinctual, because for those 2 years that I was married to somebody really religious and stuff, their family really helped me, and they were really good people, and they tried their best to make sure. They didn't believe in depression or anything like that, but they tried to be there for me, and they taught me a lot of what being a grown-up was. So I guess some parts of that are sentiment to me, and there will be moments that I'll catch myself praying. But beyond that, I struggle with that category just because of everything that's happened to me. And not that I'm dissing it or denying it. I don't want to ever do that, because I truly don't know what's beyond those realms and all that. But I'd like to believe that there's something,
Autumn, thanks a lot for sharing this, for choosing my silly Gecko podcast to share this story. I mean, you could easily have written your own book, or You know, I mean, you still could, but you know, thanks for choosing this show to tell this story on. This has been incredibly interesting. I'm sure that I actually even I kind of peeked a little bit on the Twitch chat, and saw a little bit of this. I'm sure that you're not alone in a lot of this situation. And so, you know, you're probably speaking on things that, you know, perhaps other people listen to the show are familiar with. So, you know, I appreciate you sharing all of this, and your husband for inspiring you to do it. How did it feel to sit and chat for an hour and 15 minutes?
Honestly, if I could say it, it's been good because, you know, you could talk to someone you know all day, and that's great. Absolutely wonderful. But talking to a stranger and telling your story is just different, if that makes sense. It feels like you're telling something off your chest that you couldn't tell to anybody else, even though, you know, you could, but it's just kind of like a weight off your shoulders.
Autumn, is there anything else, or anything at all, any little aspect or any little whatever, anything at all that you wanna say to bring us home before we get out of here?
Sure. If you're going through anything like this, even in my teenage years, I remember thinking like this: you're not here just to survive. You're not. I know in this moment it might feel like you have to survive, but you don't. You just keep pushing, and eventually it'll get better. Maybe right now it's survival, but eventually it's not survival. You get to live, so don't feel like it's just survival. You get to live at some point.
Congratulations on living your life, and you know, being as prosperous as you are, and thank you again for sharing your story with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening.
Of course. Have a good rest of the night, Autumn.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was a super interesting call. I don't know if I have any post-call thoughts. I really don't. Yeah, I kind of feel like that spoke for itself. I don't know if I have any. I don't know if I have anything else to add for that. That was cool. It's like it would be cool if, like, I don't know how we can help this person out. Like, if, well, I don't think she mentioned where she lives, right? Is like, okay, I don't know. If you own some kind of business in the southern United States, and you want to, I don't know how we would do that. I don't know how logistically we would do this, but if you own some kind of business in the southern United States or Appalachia, and you think you could help this lady, leave a YouTube comment. I don't know if that's logistically the best way to do this, but leave a YouTube comment, and then if she wants, she can make a YouTube account, and hop in the YouTube comments. But yeah, maybe we can do it in the YouTube comments. That would be cool. I don't know. It would be sick to get somebody a job based on the Therapy Gecko podcast. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I feel like we don't usually do shit like this, but I was very touched by this woman's story. It was really cool, and I really appreciate her sharing. All right, we'll be back. Don't worry, guys. We'll be back next episode with a story about someone diarrheaing at prom, or having 3 testicles. Or something like that. Thank you all for listening to the Therapy Gecko podcast show thing. And see you all around the universe.